Before he closed his eyes at night, Marcus Aurelius wrote, not speeches, not proclamations, not records for history. He wrote for himself, alone, in silence. A man with the weight of an empire still turned to a journal before sleep. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, commander of legions, master of decisions that determined life and death for millions. And yet, before surrendering to sleep, he needed the same thing you and I might reach for. A quiet page. A place to release what the mind carries. His private notes were never meant for us. They were not written to inspire, not written to teach, not written to last, and yet they survived. They became meditations, words from a ruler who in the dark of night was simply a man, wrestling with anger, with fear, with fatigue, with meaning. Why does this matter? Because it shows us something timeless. No matter how much power we hold, no matter how much success or responsibility sits on our shoulders, the mind does not rest on its own. It turns, it replays, it clings. If we do not give it space, it does not release us. Marcus knew this. That's why he wrote. His journal was not a diary of events. It was a mirror, a conversation with himself, a way to let go of the noise of the day so he could close his eyes with a lighter heart. Think of your own nights. How often do you lie awake, not because of what's happening right now, but because of what already happened, the argument that still stings, the mistake you keep replaying, the worry of tomorrow pressing in too soon? Sleep doesn't come, not because your body isn't tired, but because your mind won't let go. Marcus faced the same restlessness, but he chose discipline. He chose reflection. Instead of letting the day own him, he put it down in words, and in doing so, he freed himself. This is why his writings matter. They are not philosophy for the classroom. They are medicine for the restless mind. The words of a man teaching himself how to be steady, how to forgive, how to breathe, how to rest, and that is where we begin tonight. With Marcus Aurelius not as emperor, but as a fellow traveler in the quiet hours before sleep. We will step into his night journal. We will see how he released the weight of power, of anger, of regret, and we will ask how his wisdom might guide us in our own nights. Because the truth is simple. If the most powerful man in the world needed a page to clear his mind, then so do we. This is not about perfection, not about writing something beautiful. It is about freedom, about putting down what does not serve you so that rest can take its place. Tonight, as we walk through Marcus's night reflections, you may find echoes of your own life in his words. You may see that stillness is not out of reach, that peace is not something we wait for, it is something we practice. And here at Still Within, that is our mission, to walk with you through these timeless practices, to bring the wisdom of centuries into the restless nights of today, to remind you, as Marcus reminded himself, that peace is not outside, it begins within. If these words resonate with you, consider joining this journey. Subscribe to Still Within, not just for another video, but for a community that chooses calm over chaos, reflection over distraction, wisdom over noise. Because each night we all deserve the chance to rest lighter, to sleep deeper, to wake clearer. So let us begin. Tonight we open the journal of Marcus Aurelius. We step into the silence where an emperor wrote not for the world but for his own soul. And maybe, just maybe, his words will help us rest as well. When the sun set over Rome, the noise of the empire did not simply vanish. Armies still marched, borders still shifted, senators still schemed. Even in silence, the weight of command pressed heavy, and Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, carried it all. But the human mind can only hold so much before it begins to fracture. A general's betrayal, a plague spreading through the empire, a message from the front lines of war. These were not problems he could ignore. Yet he could not solve them all before sleep. What then? He turned to the page. For Marcus, writing was not luxury. It was survival. A way to sort the chaos of the day before it consumed him. Each night he poured his burdens into words, not to record them, but to release them. Because the truth is simple. If we don't put down the day does not put us down. Think of your own nights. The meetings that replay in your mind, the words you wish you had spoken, the mistakes you fear cannot be undone. You try to sleep, but your mind becomes a courtroom. Every thought a witness, every worry a judge. This is not new. This is human. Marcus lived it too. The difference is he refused to let it own him. He built a ritual of reflection, a quiet battlefield where his pen was the only weapon and his mind was the only territory worth saving. Imagine him in those final hours. The torches flicker in the palace halls. The city beyond grows quiet. Servants retreat, and there in the stillness the emperor bends over a page, not as a ruler but as a man. He writes of anger, his own temper boiling against others. He writes of fear, of death, of disease, of betrayal. He writes of time slipping away, faster each day. He writes of the pettiness of power, the futility of wealth, the shortness of life. And when he finishes, he is lighter. Not because the problems disappeared, but because he no longer carried them alone. They belong to the page. This is the wisdom we often forget. The page can carry what we no longer need to hold. Think about the last time you couldn't sleep. Did the problem resolve itself in those late hours of staring at the ceiling? Or did it simply weigh heavier? The Stoics remind us if something can be solved, solve it tomorrow. If it cannot be solved, why let it poison your rest tonight? Marcus knew this. His journal was a boundary, a line drawn between the day and the night, between the chaos of duty and the peace of being, between what he could change and what he could not. And you may not rule Rome, but you rule your own small empire. Work deadlines, family obligations, financial burdens, relationships pulling at your heart. These are your front lines, and like Marcus, you need a place to set them down. That is why his practice is timeless. Reflection at night is not about philosophy, it's about healing. It is the way we empty our minds so that rest can take root. This is why Marcus did not simply collapse into sleep. He prepared for it. He trained his mind to let go. He made the page his ritual, his bridge into silence, and this is why his words endure. Because we feel the same burden, we carry our own battles. We need the same release. So tonight, remember the lesson. The mind will not rest until you teach it to. The day will not end until you end it. And the simplest way to do so may be the way Marcus chose, by writing it down. At Still Within, we believe this practice is not a relic of the past. It is medicine for the present. The journal waits just as it waited for Marcus. The page is patient. It listens, it holds, and it frees. If you have not tried this before, let this be the invitation. Tonight, when the lights are low and the weight of the day presses in, take a pen. Write a single line, a burden, a thought, a release. Not for beauty, not for anyone else, only for yourself, because you too deserve to rest lighter. And as we continue, we will step deeper into Marcus's reflections. The themes he returned to night after night, the truths he whispered to himself in the dark, the wisdom that prepared him not just for rest, but for the next dawn. Marcus Aurelius did not write about battles won, nor about conquests achieved. His pages were not filled with the glory of Rome, but with reminders to tame the storms within. The emperor of the greatest empire still fought wars no soldier could see. One of his greatest enemies was anger. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." Think of that. It is rarely the insult itself that destroys us. It is the fire we feed after. Marcus knew this truth intimately. Every day he faced betrayal, flattery, and manipulation. Senators plotting behind closed doors, generals craving power, citizens demanding more than the empire could give. He could not control their actions, but he could control his reaction. So he wrote, to remind himself, anger is a chain. When we grip it, we are dragged. When we let go, we are free. And this lesson is no less urgent today. Think of the last time rage consumed you. Did it make the problem lighter or heavier? Did it bring peace or fracture it further? Like Marcus, we need reminders. Because anger whispers that it is strength, when in truth it is surrender. The journal gave him clarity. Each line was a small rebellion against the fire, a way to lay it down so it would not follow him into sleep. But anger was not his only companion. He also faced the shadow of death. A plague swept through Rome during his reign, claiming countless lives. His own children died before him. Even emperors could not escape mortality. In the silence of night, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These were not the words of despair. They were words of liberation. Because when you remember that life is short, suddenly the weight of petty things falls away. The insult, the envy, the small frustrations, they do not matter in the face of eternity. Marcus used death not to paralyze, but to sharpen. To remind himself that every evening might be the last, and therefore every evening was precious. How would you live differently if you remembered this? Would you hold grudges as tightly? Would you chase distractions with the same urgency? Or would you soften? Would you forgive more easily? Would you savor more deeply? This is why his night journal was not grim but grounding. It returned him to what mattered: virtue, justice, humility, service. The impermanence of life was not his fear, it was his compass, and woven through it all was the theme of time. Perhaps the most relentless teacher of all. Marcus wrote, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away. Death stands at your elbow. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." He reminded himself that time is the only currency we cannot restore. Wealth can be lost and regained. Power can rise and fall. But the minutes we waste are gone forever. So each night his journal was a ledger. Not of money, but of moments. How had he spent the day? In anger or in patience? In distraction or in purpose? Did he waste the hours or use them well? And this practice is as urgent now as it was then, because we too live as if we had 10,000 years. We scroll endlessly. We argue pointlessly. We postpone what matters most, until one day the clock runs out. Marcus teaches us that reflection is not about guilt, it is about stewardship. To notice how we spend our hours. To choose more wisely tomorrow. To remember that time is not promised. Anger, death, time. These were his companions at night. Not enemies, but teachers. And through his pen he conversed with them. He asked for their lessons. He turned their weight into wisdom. This is the gift of his journal. It was not a performance. It was not for history. It was a private classroom, where the emperor humbled himself before truths larger than Rome. And it can be our classroom too. Tonight, if anger follows you, write it down. If fear of death haunts you, acknowledge it. If time feels wasted, reflect on it. Not to judge yourself, but to see clearly. Because clarity is the soil of peace, and peace is what allows sleep to come. At Still Within, we believe this is the practice that softens the night, to sit with the ancient wisdom, and to turn it into living guidance. Marcus did not write for us, yet his words reach across centuries because we share the same struggles. So let his reminders become yours. Not grand speeches, but quiet whispers. Not declarations, but reflections. And perhaps as you close your eyes, you will feel the same release he sought. The day is short. Life is shorter. Do not carry anger. Do not fear death. Do not waste time. Write it, release it, and rest. And tomorrow we will rise lighter. Marcus Aurelius did not write for history. He wrote for healing. And that is why his practice is still alive. Because healing is not bound by centuries. The mind of a Roman emperor and the mind of a modern soul both carry the same weight. So the question is, how do we bring his ritual into our own nights? It does not require a palace or even silence as grand as Rome asleep. It requires only a page, a pen, and the willingness to meet yourself honestly. Begin simply. Each night before sleep, sit in a quiet space. The light soft, the world slowing down. Let the phone rest away from you. Let the noise of the day fall to the side. Take the pen in your hand and open the page. Now write just 3 lines. The first line, one struggle. Name the place where you fell short today. Maybe it was anger with a coworker. Maybe it was impatience with your child. Maybe it was neglecting your health. Write it without excuse but without judgment. This is not a courtroom. It is a mirror. And the mirror does not condemn. It only reflects. Marcus did the same. He wrote not to flatter himself but to correct himself. To see where he wandered from the path of reason so tomorrow he could walk straighter. The second line, one gratitude. Name the place where light entered your day. Maybe it was a stranger's kindness at the grocery store. Maybe it was the laughter of a friend. Maybe it was the simple fact that you woke and breathed. Write it down, however small. Gratitude is fuel. It reminds us that even in the chaos, life still offers gifts. Marcus, too, returned often to gratitude. Gratitude for teachers, for friends, for the chance to serve. Even in burden, he reminded himself of blessings. The third line, one intention. Name the way you want to meet tomorrow. Not a long list. Not a heavy promise. A single compass point, patience, honesty, focus, kindness. Write it as if planting a seed. The page holds it through the night, and in the morning you rise with direction, that's all. 3 lines, one struggle, one gratitude, one intention. It may sound small, but small is powerful, because over time these lines accumulate. They weave a record of your inner life. They train your mind the way Marcus trained his. And most of all, they give your night a boundary. The day ends here. The burden ends here. The page will carry what you do not need to bring into sleep. Imagine this as a ritual. the lamp beside you, the quiet scratch of pen on paper, the slow exhale as you set the pen down, the feeling of weight releasing, like stones dropped from your shoulders. This is not just journaling. This is preparation for peace, and here is the beauty. It does not need perfection. Your handwriting may be messy. Your words may stumble. None of it matters, because this journal is not for the world. It is for you. Like Marcus, you do not write to be read. You write to be free. When you practice this night after night, something shifts. The mind becomes lighter. Sleep comes easier. And mornings begin not with chaos, but with clarity. And perhaps in time you will find what Marcus found, that the page is not empty. It is alive. It is a mirror. It is a companion. It is a quiet teacher, reminding you of truths you already know but too often forget. This is the invitation. Tonight, take 3 lines. See how it feels. See if your body rests easier. See if your heart softens. And if it does, return tomorrow. Build the ritual. Let it root into your life. At Still Within, this is why we exist. To help you remember the wisdom that endures. To remind you that peace is not somewhere far away. It is here, waiting at the edge of your pen. Waiting in the silence of night. So write, release, rest. And as Marcus did centuries ago, you too may find that the greatest empire is not the world outside, but the calm you build within. Marcus Aurelius never intended his private notes to echo through centuries. Yet here we are, still listening, still learning, still needing what he once needed, a way to quiet the mind before sleep. Because no matter how the world changes, the weight of a day is timeless. We carry disappointments, victories, distractions, regrets. If we do not release them, they remain with us, pressing into the night, shaping our tomorrow. Marcus found a way to set them down. A pen, a page, a ritual of honesty. Each night he wrote, not to impress history, but to heal his own heart. And in doing so, he left us a map. The map is simple. Write your struggle. Write your gratitude. Write your intention. And then close the book. Close the day. Let rest take you. Think of what happens when you live this way. The mind no longer drags yesterday into tomorrow. The body no longer tenses beneath unspoken burdens. Sleep becomes not escape, but renewal. You rise clearer, steadier, more alive. This is not ancient history. It is present medicine. Marcus's night journal is not locked in the past. It waits in every notebook, every quiet moment before sleep, every hand that dares to write honestly. And now, it waits for you. So tonight, try. 1 line or 3. Do not aim for perfection. Aim for release. Let your page carry what your heart no longer needs to hold. Allow yourself the gift Marcus gave himself, the gift of rest, and if you do, remember, you are not alone in this. Thousands of years ago, an emperor sat in the dark doing the same. And tonight, countless others sit with their journals too, letting go, seeking peace. You are part of this lineage of stillness. At Still Within, this is what we share. Not just philosophy, but practices that heal. Not just words, but rituals that bring peace. We believe the wisdom of the Stoics is alive because it speaks to our sleepless nights, our restless minds, our longing for calm. If this journey with Marcus has brought you even a moment of quiet, let it be the beginning. Stay with us. Subscribe to Still Within. Walk with this community. Together, we learn to release the noise, to hold to what matters, to live lighter. Because peace is not a distant dream. It is a practice. And every night the page is waiting. So let tonight be different. Take your pen, write your truth, set it down, and then close your eyes with a lighter heart. The empire of your day can rest now. The night is yours.